Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
Mrs. O'Hara asked, "Will you read the letter aloud?" He nodded and began. "My dear Aunt, I am the saddest man alive. Lady Tinmouth has left me, just as you warned. I loved her deeply, but she only played with my feelings. She made me believe she loved me, but when I asked her to run away with me, she laughed. Yes, she is another man's wife, and I know this is wrong. But when we met, I thought she was free. She never told me the truth, and I fell in love. Now I cannot stop, even if I wanted to. I know you may not understand, but some men would rather die than live without love. I will meet Pauline tonight, and my future will be decided. By the time you read this, I may not be here anymore. But no matter what happens, I know you will still care for me. George Belmont. Turoe, August 2nd, 19. Nora wiped her eyes. Poor George. I didn't know he loved Lady Tinmouth so much. If I had known, I would have helped him. Colonel Dacre asked, "Will you use this letter?" No, Nora said. I don't want revenge. If I ever see Lady Tinmouth, I might tell her what I think, but we will probably never meet. You can keep the letter safe for me. Colonel Dacre agreed and then asked, "And what about you, Nora? What are you doing here?" Nothing important. I heard you were going to marry a Russian prince, he said. Nora's face turned red. Who told you that? Someone in Nice. I didn't believe it, but Gwen said it sounded like something you would do. Why? She asked. She thought you wouldn't like a quiet life in England. Nora's eyes filled with sadness. Whatever I wanted, I can never have. Colonel Dacre looked at her with concern. Don't ruin your life just because you are sad. You can still be happy. She forced a laugh. Of course. So, is it true about the Russian prince? Go home, Lawrence, she said with a smile. Take that letter to your wife. And don't interfere in my life. I think a man can help his friend without being unfair to his wife, Nora said. Maybe, but sometimes their interests are different. Anyway, I won't try. Now, your wife must be waiting for you. Goodbye, Lawrence. She gave him her hand and softened her tone. Tell Lady Gwendolen that I am sorry for misjudging her. She will be happy to hear that, he replied. Then tell her and goodbye again. Lawrence kissed her hand and was about to leave when Nora suddenly asked, smiling, "Someone told me there might soon be an heir to Borton Hall. Is it true? Tell me about the Russian prince first," he teased. Yes, she admitted, lowering her head. Then my news is also true, he said. She nodded with a sad smile. He looked at her one last time before walking away, knowing this was their final goodbye. Lady Gwendolen was reading when her husband entered. Usually, she greeted him with a smile, but this time she ignored him. He walked behind her, placed his hands gently on her shoulders, and pulled her close. What's wrong, Gwen? He asked. Nothing, she said, avoiding his eyes. I had a headache this morning. No wonder. You cried yourself to sleep. She gasped. How do you know? I saw and heard you. She lowered her eyes, her lips trembling. I'm waiting for you to tell me what's wrong, he said. It's nothing important. Anything that makes you cry is important to me, he insisted. Oh, women cry for no reason. Some do, but not you. Since we married, I've never seen you cry until last night. I was happy before, she whispered. Are you saying you're not happy now? She stayed silent. He sat beside her and held her waist. Gwen, we are husband and wife. A small fight between lovers is one thing, but a real problem between us would be terrible. You promised never to keep secrets from me. She looked at him with sadness. Have you kept all your promises? I hope so. If not, tell me and I'll make it right. You promised to always support me, she sobbed. And I have. No, you haven't, she said. He looked at her with concern. Please tell me what you mean. You talked to Mrs. O'Hara yesterday, even though she is my enemy. And I know you visited her this morning, she accused. That's true, he admitted calmly. I spoke to her because I have known her for years. And I visited her because she asked me to. Lawrence told Gwendolyn about his talk with Nora and placed a letter in her lap. Read this, he said coldly. You always suspect me, so here is proof that I am not lying. Oh, Lawrence, she said sadly. She wanted to believe him without reading it, but curiosity won. She opened the letter and read it. As she finished, her face brightened. Why didn't Miss Pinder show this letter before? She didn't know about the details of his death. She lives in the countryside and doesn't read newspapers. When Mrs. O'Hara told her George had died, she didn't ask questions. She wanted to believe it was natural and not by his own hand. But Mrs. O'Hara knew I was wrongly accused. She should have helped me sooner. She only found the letter a month ago. She planned to send it to Borton Hall when she heard we were back. But since we met by chance, she gave it to me now. And where is she going now? She is getting married. To whom? Gwendolyn asked, her eyes shining. Someone I know? I don't know, but he is a Russian prince. Gwendolyn gasped. Lawrence, that can't be true. Strange things happen all the time, he said, smiling. She will live abroad, then? Gwendolyn asked, trying to sound indifferent. Probably. Don't you care? She asked softly, moving closer. Why should I? You were such good friends. Well, I guess I have to stop seeing all my old friends since my wife gets jealous, he teased. Oh, Lawrence. It's true, Gwen. Not really, she admitted. I was only jealous of Mrs. O'Hara. But why, Gwen? 8 months ago, we were both free. If I had loved her, why wouldn't I have married her? Gwendolyn looked down. I never thought of that. No, you let a silly idea grow in your mind. You believed that if I spoke to an old friend, it meant I loved her more than my own wife. Admit that you were being foolish. I think I was, Lawrence, she said, leaning against him. But from now on, I will trust you. I have been so unhappy since yesterday. I should be angry with you, but I am too soft when it comes to you," Gwendolyn said with a smile. "And that's a good thing, my love," Lawrence replied. He hugged her, but before ending the conversation, he gently explained how important trust is in a marriage. She was so happy to be forgiven that she promised to always believe in him. She did not even remind him that he sometimes made mistakes too. The mystery of Borton had almost faded from her mind. She decided it was best to forget about it. That evening was a happy one. They had tickets for a show, but chose to stay home instead. They sat by the fire, talking and laughing until bedtime. Gwendolyn did not cry that night and felt no fear of trouble ahead. When she seemed tired, Lawrence let her rest. But half an hour later, he rushed back into the room, holding an open letter. "Gwen, my love, I'm sorry, but I must go to England immediately. It's urgent. The journey would be too hard for you, and I can't wait, but I'll be back in 3 or 4 days." He looked so worried that she asked, "Is something serious happening?" "My uncle, Sir Lawrence, has died." "That's all," she almost said. He looked hurt. "Isn't that enough?" Then he quickly packed his bag. "I must catch the boat train," he said. He kissed her goodbye and promised to write from Dover. As soon as he left, Gwendolyn got out of bed and picked up a telegram that had fallen from his pocket. It read, "Come at once. If not, there will be a scandal. She is violent and insists on seeing you." Gwendolyn's heart sank. Was her husband hiding something?